wish I could change places with you.
Well, I wish I could too.
Marshall Seymour and his son Charlie just got their wish and each other's body.
Awesome!
And being a kid never felt so good
This is me.
or seemed so right.
They never told me you had to see my homeroom teacher.
Judge Reinhold,
Are you all right?
Did I look all right?
Fred Savage,
What?
Vice Versa,
Bye.
rated PG. Vice Versa starts Friday at select theaters.
Hey, folks, welcome back. We are here on Unfinished Business Television with another dive deep into another cinematic, well, I'm not going to say classic, but another cinematic, what is the right word? With another offering of a movie from the past. I am your host, Jeff Galashaw at Unfinished B2. And with me, as always, is Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
Gloria Gifford warned America when she said Fred Savage is a little shit.
I thought it was a prick. Okay. Well, that's another hint or clue as to what movie we're talking about this week. And we're talking about the 1988 film, body switcheroo film, Vice Versa, starring Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage. This came in the wake of films like the infamous Kirk Cameron, Peter O'Toole, Dudley Moore. That would have been a much interesting movie, like Father, like Son. And even 18 again with George Burns and Charlie Schlatter. And of course, previous films like Freaky Friday. Vice Versa, we have Judge Reinhold as a marketing executive who goes to the Orient to acquire things to sell at the store. And David Proval, as a smuggler, hides this skull in his shipment. And basically, this is an ancient artifact. And Judge Reinhold holds it in his apartment when his estranged son comes to visit, and they get angry at each other. And I wish I was you. I wish I was a kid. They switch hold. This is not my pick. This was Andre's pick. So, Andre, why did you pick a Vice Versa?
So, Vice Versa is one of my earliest memories about movies in general. I never saw it in the theater. I only remember it on cable and saw it quite a few times due to the fact that Fred Savage was in it. Keep in mind, when this movie came out, or actually at the time of production, he hadn't done the Wonder Years yet. But this movie came out about a month or two after the Wonder Years hit the airwaves. So it was sort of capitalizing on his success on that show. And I used to get freaked out as a kid when they did the body swap scene and seeing like the shoe explode and Judge Reinhold's whole body like morphing and stripping into his clothes, because obviously when they switch places, that's what ends up happening. And, this was also at the time, keep in mind, I had not seen Beverly Hills Cop or anything he had done because I was a little kid. Only later on did I check this out. But this movie was one of the vehicles that was made to try to make Judge Reinhold into a bigger star. Like at that time, him, Steve Guttenberg, Tom Hanks, James Belushi, and even Michael Keaton, they were all kind of these interchangeable everyman actors in comedies at that particular point in time. And Judge had success with Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, as well as Ruthless People, and even his small part in Gremlins, which was cut down in the final version. So he had some successes, but then the attempts to make him into a leading man with movies like Head Office, which actually has some funny scenes in there, especially Rick Moranis' part, as well as the movie Offbeat, where he plays a parking meter cop. Those movies did not work. So this was probably like the last attempt to make him into a big time movie star. And clearly this didn't do it, so much so that he attributed the movie to actually killing his leading man career on top of the fact that he was considered difficult to work with. I guess he really was, as nice of a guy as he was on screen, he had some issues, and he actually left Hollywood for a few years to live in New Mexico to kind of get his life together, and then come back with the Santa Claus movies and a lot of Navy stuff. As far as this movie goes, this is the thing. It's not good, but it's not bad either. I think that there are times where Judge Reinhold does a pretty good job playing a kid inside a man's body. Now, he doesn't do it as good as Tom Hanks in Big. I will say that. I think there are times he over exaggerates what he thinks Fred Savage would act like if he was an adult. And let's put aside his issues for later. But as far as, those scenes where he's in the office and trying to figure out how to actually do his dad's job and doesn't know how to do it, there's some funny moments with him and Gloria Gifford. There's the scene in the boardroom where he's got the earpiece and his son, his basically Fred Savage as Judge Reinhold trying to tell him what to do. So, that's some funny stuff. I love the scene in the department store with the guitar and doing the whole jam out. That whole tune is always still in my head to this day. And Corinne Bohrer, or however you say her name, the girl who plays his girlfriend Sam, from Academy 4. That's who I think of her from. She's very good and likable, and that cutesiness around Judge in there. So yeah, there's sometimes he overdoes it, and there's other times where I think he's pitch perfect trying to act like a kid. When it comes to Fred Savage, I'm a little mixed, because on one hand, I do believe him trying to act like his father. And then there's other times where I'm just like, I am fucking annoyed with him. I think he's a complete little shit. And just, with these kind of movies, you would think that when they switch places, that they would actually, they would start to do things better than the way that their son or father would actually do. And it's like with him, he doesn't do anything better other than he gets better grades than his son playing himself. And it just, everything else, he sucks at hockey, he gets beat up by the bullies, there's nothing else really all that exciting. Maybe that's part of the humor, but it just, for some reason, that part of it doesn't work. Swoosie Kurtz is very good as the villainess alongside David Proval, and the part where she's gonna bust up Judge Reinhold's balls always kind of cracks me up for some reason. That's really the most I could say. There's some good, there's some bad, but it is passable, Saturday afternoon entertainment, and I wouldn't be too hard on Judge. I'd be more harder on Savage. So,
jeez, you pick on the kid more than the adult. Jeez, I saw this film not in theaters, but I remember it coming out on home video, and I'll admit I more saw it for Fred Savage because I was a kid, so I liked the Wonder Years. I remember liking it or thinking it was okay. Watching it now, OMG. It's not the worst thing I see, but it is so obviously more made for children, because there is no way in 1988 an adult was sitting here and saying, you know what, I thought it was pretty good, because it just, everything is handled in such a juvenile way, not a stupid way, just a juvenile way, that you could see more kids finding this fascinating and funny than an actual adult. I really have to question the guys who wrote this film.
Who wrote Time Bandits.
Yeah, who are legendary, screenwriters. That's the sad part. But I thought Judge Reinhold is the glue that holds this movie together, because he's good in his scenes. I'm not going to say he's always funny, but like you said, I think this film needed that over-the-topness so that it could choose a direction. So I really enjoyed that. I always like Corinne however you say her name, Corinne Boringer as the love interest in this. I don't know why, but this film and what was it, Nerds in Love, the TV movie of Revenge of the Nerds, I always remember her for those two films. Though she's been in way more movies than that, but those are the first two that come to mind. Fred Savage, yeah, he was a dick in the movie. I didn't mind him, though. I like those little character things, like the stupid frog, him wanting to be a drummer. going to that rock concert with her. Though the thing at the end was kind of weird, where it's like, okay, we've got to strip down when we do this. It was like, okay, I understand.
Oh yeah, that was a little weird.
Yeah, it's like, okay, and she's sitting there in the car and doesn't notice all these flashing lights happening. I enjoyed seeing again all these actors before they were stars. Jane Kaczmarek playing, his estranged wife or his ex-wife. Jane Lynch in her first movie role. That lady who played the teacher who thinks he has a crush on her. I don't remember her name, but I mean,
I've seen her in other things.
Yeah, it's a fascinating film to look back on, as an adult. But I mean, like again, if I had kids, I'd let them watch and see if they liked it. But I wouldn't. This ain't at the top of my list of a rewatch. It's okay. Like I said, it's okay for kids. And like as an adult, I'm just like, there's so many other things I could be watching. I like that Judge Reinhold blames this film, but not Offbeat for the decline of his career. I'm like, trust me, that one's worse. Again, I can understand because for some odd reason I thought this movie was a hit. I didn't know it had bombed.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to come out. It's a Christmas movie, right? So it was actually supposed to come out on Christmas of the year before. And for whatever reason, they decided, let's wait until after Wonder Years came on and I guess capitalize on it. And at that point, I guess maybe the kids would have ran out to see it for Fred, but for Judge, it's just like, well, if there's no Eddie Murphy in it, we're not going to pay to see this.
I mean, like the beginning importing thing is just weird. It just feels like an over explanation. I know in the movie's logic we have to see it. So David Proval's character's introduced in all that, and James Hong in there for one scene. But other than that, it's just like it feels like it slows down the movie, and it's like kind of comedic pace that pretty much happens soon as Judge Reinhold gets custody of Charlie for the weekend. That's where the movie really starts. And how he refers to adults and they all can't stand him. But ultimately, I'm like, this I don't ever need to see it again. But it's fine for what it is. I guess it's like one of the more memorable Judge Reinhold. Well, again, he didn't really get to play leads that often. I mean, I still remember him from Stripes. So
yeah.
That and the Beverly Hills Cop movies, this, and then when he took over playing Uncle Eddie in those National Lampoon movies.
I never understood that.
Well, I guess maybe he lived in New Mexico and they wanted to film there, so they're like, hey, or when they gave him his own court show, Judge Reinhold, so like I said, the movie. I don't really need to ever see it again, but if I had a kid, I'd show it to them. Or if I had nieces and nephews who were young, I'd be like, hey, check out this oldie for you guys. But yeah.
Big out of the equation, where would you rank this against 18 Again and Like Father Like Son, and even Dream a Little Dream?
Well, Dream a Little Dream, that's just a weird movie in of itself. That has Jason Robards has a bigger cast member than anything. If I don't include Big, Like Father Like Son, I didn't like either. Strangely enough, no, I guess it has to be one of the better ones than all of those next to Big, because, okay, there's always a troubling factor with each of the other ones. 18 Again, we only get to see Charlie Schlater be George Burns. We never get to see George Burns be Charlie Schlater, so it's really one-handed. When you come to, movies like Father Like Son, it's just not funny. The only time I laughed is in the beginning where they show the body transference and all of a sudden the Native American character is cursing. That's really the only part of the movie I find funny. And
the Christian boy acts like a bigger asshole.
Kirk Cameron's just horrible in the film. The only scene I thought was funny was when him as Dudley Moore brings the date home and she's disappointed, because he didn't try to make a move. I mean, and I don't know, what's his name? as Dudley Moore as Kirk Cameron's character just seems like a really big pussy, because all he
That's
does,
not Dudley Moore. He's a ladies' man.
yeah, and he's chewing gum the whole movie, like, oh hey, oh what's that, and it's just like, there's not much effort here.
But that's that was the one issue I had with Judge Reinhold in this movie is that I think there were just times where, okay, you're trying to play, I guess, 12 or 13, but you're overdoing it at points where it's just like you're coming off a little, what's the sensitive word to say, mentally challenged a little bit.
Okay, well, since he said he was method and studied Fred Savage, I guess that's how Fred Savage was acting in normal.
It didn't really come across that way in other things he was doing at that time. Certainly not in the Wonder Years or in The Wizard.
Oh no, Wizard! Well, there's a classic. That's something we got to cover. But I will say, I even though it was stupid, I liked the bathroom scene with Judge Reinhold going up against the bullies, and
that's a funny thing too that always makes me laugh is that the main bully, the Indian kid or Spanish kid, is the same kid from the Michael Keaton movie Touch and Go, who was like the kid he befriended. Now he's like all bigger and he's a complete jerk. I thought that was interesting.
Well, I mean, AJ Nadeau, who is Indian in real life, but usually got cast as Hispanic characters, he was also in Office Space. So, I mean, he's a lifelong actor. He still acts. He was even in Suburbia, the Richard Linklater film. So, like I said, all these actors you recognize from other places are throughout this film. But, yeah, like I said, I'd be like, you don't have to see this. This isn't a must-see. But if you're interested in it, like I said, next to Big, it's probably, out of all those movies, the next best one, which isn't saying much. So I'm like, Dream a Little Dream. I want to be in on the concept meeting of that one. This is...
like guy named Finger.
Oh, yeah, and your best friend's going to have a broken leg throughout the whole film. You're going to be really into meditation. But you're going to get a dance sequence. Is the only thing I really remember other than the Corys being in it. Meredith Salinger, who's now married to Patton Oswalt. That's the only thing I remember. And for some odd reason, they somehow got Jason Robards to be in this film. Well, see, that's the problem with half these body switching movies is that you only show the young guy supposedly possessed by the older guy, but you never see the old guy really possessed by the younger guy. I
would have liked to have seen Charlie Shetler in the body of George Burns.
Exactly. I don't know how George Burns would have pulled half of it off, but be like, you're going to have to do more than sit, George. You're going to have to move. You're supposed to be 18 again, hence the title. But yeah, like I said, this, it was a hard sit. It's a nostalgic sit, but it's it's one of those like watching Small Wonder, like, I used to like this. I used to think this was
got
good.
That feel.
Like, oh my God, I was stupid. That's what it feels like watching it. And I mean, I guess in the end, Fred Savage truly lived up to his character in the film in his own personal life.
Yeah, he became, first it was Wonder Years Ended, and then he started playing a lot of evil characters, rapists, white girlfriend abusers. And
yeah, he killed Candace Cameron in that movie.
Yeah, and he tried to rape Topanga on Boy Meets World. It's like
sexually harass. It wasn't rape. It's a Disney.
It's a Friday show.
It was a Disney show. Sexually harass.
A prime time Disney show on a Friday night.
It was 9:30, so it was okay. And it was the college years, so that's what made it okay or passable. And where his little brother tries to punch him. So it's like, oh, full circle, huh? But I'm like, well, Fred Savage has his own personal problems that I hope
he's really drinking on that film with the martinis, because that was questionable in 1988.
It seemed more like a visual gag, like, oh, look, a little kid drinking a martini. Ha ha ha. Now, of course, it would not be allowed in a movie.
Well, too, you had Dare, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, like.
But he didn't drive.
You came out that year on Bomb because of that.
Which movie?
The second Arthur film with Dudley Moore.
Yeah, I think it was more than that that made that movie bomb. It was a useless sequel that was like, you really need to see him keep drinking his way through fortune and then get his fortune back somehow.
That was the thing. Last time I watched that, I didn't laugh once.
I've still never watched the whole thing, so I'm like, but to be fair, I don't really remember Arthur, the first one, that much. It's been that long since I've watched it. So, and you know me, I love Liza Minnelli, so I should actually watch it sometime soon. But is there anything else you'd like to say about Vice the Versa?
So apparently there is one other future star that actually appeared in this movie, and that's actually Ben Savage.
Oh yes,
he was in the crowd during the performance scene in the department store.
So he was an extra. I'm just saying, like, pretty much that was it. It wasn't like, hey, that kid's gonna be a star. It's like, hey, I wrote Little Monsters. Are you ready? You know, the only difference between him and Fred is basically Ben has an afro. That's really the biggest difference. Face it, Corey had an afro. You know it's true.
He was getting a Steve Guttenberg on, you know?
With an afro.
Hello, Steve Guttenberg can't stop the music afro.
Look at that episode where they did something to his hair, and he had an afro there. So that's why I say the dude had an afro. He still probably does.
They gave him dreadlocks on Boy Meets World?
No, they just gave him an afro. I think he was trying to straighten
that would
his
have been
hair.
hilarious, though.
No, it would have been so cultural. Well, they could have did it back then. Now it would have been culturally inappropriate. And I would hope Trina McGee Davis would have had something to say, like, that's fucked up. You know.
Oh, if they did that with Sean, she would have walked off the set.
The scary part is it seemed like Ryder Strong would have been that type who would have tried to get dreadlocks at that time. He is earthy. So... But anything else you have to say about Vice Versa? And
it's a time waster for a Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, it's good for the nostalgia of that time, but I wouldn't recommend it as like a classic.
No. This is definitely more like a completist. Like, hey, I want to see Judge Reinhold in a leading role, or Fred Savage when he was a teen star, and
when he was a little prick.
You're not getting an argument out of me. But they didn't call him a shit though, so it was just prick.
No difference to me.
Well, see, at the time, I thought. Before I had rewatched it, I thought she had said, oh, he's a little asshole like his dad. So, you know, there's many variations that he could have been called, but we knew what she meant. And I was shocked because it took me years to realize that was the hot dispatcher from DC Cab.
The dispatcher from DC Cab and that hooker in 48 Hours.
See, I haven't seen 48 Hours recently, so I'm just
when he gets out of prison the first time, and like he's made Nick Nolte's trying to make this call, and then he's basically by himself, like, "Hey, we go get a pussy hunt or something like that."
Oh man, but yeah. So, like I said, storied past, filmed in Chicago. You know, I'm not recommending it, but if I ever have kids, I'm popping it in. Be like, here, watch this. You'll like it. I'll just have to explain that final scene. Like, I don't know why they had to get naked. I guess so the clothes wouldn't pop. You know, I also like the fact that her new husband wasn't an asshole in the film.
He was okay.
Yeah, he was decent. He didn't like rat on him like, yo, your ex-husband, you know what he was doing with little Fred? You know, he was like, okay, like, get some therapy, get some help. Stop this fucking behavior. And now his new stepmom gave him his first kiss. That's going to be weird.
Yeah, that's the awkward part of the movie.
Well, at least it wasn't like big where it's like, hey, Elizabeth Perkins, you did a pedophilic act.
Well, what was worse, like him in the bathroom looking down at his dad's junk, or in Big when Tom Hanks gets to grope Elizabeth Perkins?
Worse on a personal level or by watching?
Probably by watching.
Well, he was going to have to see his penis eventually. I mean, he's going to have to go to the bathroom. So
You have to be that harsh?
I'm just saying. And with Elizabeth Perkins, I mean, that's worse for her. But I mean, for him, it's like score. But now, again, they'd probably be like, well, we can't put that scene in the movie.
Well, you know, that Big would have been worse if they went with the original ending where he goes back to school and then she de-ages herself to be his age. That would have been awkward.
But they already had used that ending in one of these Disney movies where somebody wishes to be older and they make him older and he falls in love with the teacher and then he de-ages, he goes back to his original age, but somehow she finds a way to de-age herself. There is this TV movie somewhere and it has Alan Thicke in it. And
there's no sex.
Well, it's a Disney movie. Back
there wasn't pegging back then.
Yes, back when that meant something. It was a Disney TV movie. Let that be known. So I don't want people like, I don't remember this movie in theaters. It was a TV movie. So
the days when Disney sold ice pops.
Yes, the good old days when they had the magical world of Disney on Sundays. But yeah, so they kind of use that ending. I don't know if it was before or after Big, so I don't know if they just repurposed that ending or if Big was really going to rip off this Alan Thicke TV movie like, that's how we end it. Because if she would have de-aged, who the hell was she going to live with?
Who's going to pay her bills?
Exactly. She would have been a teenage runaway street urchin. And Mercedes Rule ain't going to take her in. You saw how she reacted when Tom Hanks was there. Okay, so that ends this episode of Vice Versa. But as you know, that ends this business for this week in the Deep. But there's always unfinished business for the dive. And we will see you next time.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.